Hey everybody, it's your gay sports fanatic. Welcome back. This week's installment is College Football Week 8. Last week, the gay sports fanatic here, that's me, went 6 wins against the spread and 1 loss. So, best week I've had so far this season. So, I'm going to jump in. I'm going to look at each conference and kind of see who I think is in for the college football playoff, who's yet to be determined, and who I think is actually out. So let's jump first to Notre Dame. Obviously not in the conference, but I think Notre Dame is in. Their schedule, all they really have left, in my opinion, is USC on the road. USC is not as good as might have thought they were. So Notre Dame, to me, looks like in. Next, let's jump to the SEC. So Texas, who has looked absolutely without a flaw. They're flawless this year. Texas in. Texas A&M 3-0 in the conference, 1 loss to Notre Dame. That loss is not looking so bad as the weeks go by. I like Texas A&M in. They've got LSU and Texas at home coming up, but I like A&M in right now. Next, LSU, they're undefeated in the SEC. I say no. I think LSU's schedule is too hard from here on out. It's too hard. I think they'll have 3 losses at the end of the year. Next up is Georgia. Good team, but I also say no, and it's because their schedule is just too tough. I just don't think they can pull it off. Next is Tennessee, and I feel the opposite when it comes to Tennessee because Tennessee, unlike Georgia, Tennessee's schedule is not really too tough. They play Alabama this Saturday. If they can get through that, Tennessee's got some pretty smooth sailing all the way. So Tennessee right now in. Next we have Alabama out. No, schedule's too tough. Alabama is not as good as it might have looked after the Georgia game. They're just not. I say no. Missouri, forget it. They're just not good enough. Ole Miss now with 2 losses in the SEC is done. Arkansas, they're like Pluto getting sunshine, from the sun. There's a few rays coming in, but not much. They would have to win out, and their schedule's just too tough. So that's the SEC. Let's jump now to Big Ten country, and we got Indiana up there at the top at 3-0. To be determined at this point. I doubt they'll make it, but they could. They got Michigan, Ohio State, and Nebraska, so they got a chance to certainly play their way in. Oregon in. Oregon, the biggest game of the year, they won last week against Ohio State. I mean, that was the one they had to pull off. So put Oregon in schedule. I think they could win out easily. Penn State, this is all going to come down to this Penn State Ohio State game, I think. So whoever wins that game is really, I think, in. So Penn State's got to look to Ohio State. That game is in Happy Valley. Next, let's go to Illinois. They're 2-1. Again, a team to be determined. I kind of doubt it, but let's keep an eye on them. They go to Oregon, I believe, in their schedule. That's not going to be good news for them. So next up, we have Ohio State. Hey, great team. Ohio State is lost a heartbreaker on the road at Oregon. Nothing to be ashamed of. Again, it'll come down to Ohio State and Penn State. If Ohio State wins that game, look out. So that keep it on. I'm going to come back to that game again, obviously, in the next couple of weeks. Nebraska at 2-1, no. The schedule is just too hard for them to get through. On the other hand, Iowa, the Hawkeyes, just the opposite. They're 2-1, but their schedule couldn't be easier. In fact, if I had picked a schedule for a team to be as easy as possible going out in the Big Ten, it would be what Iowa has right now. So Iowa is, to be considered strongly here for the playoff. Don't overlook them. Michigan, no. They're too one-dimensional. I don't see how they can do it. So now let's switch over to the Big 12. So we got BYU, which is sitting right now at 3-0 and then 6-0 overall. Haven't lost a game. I say BYU is in. Next, we have Iowa State, also undefeated in the Big 12, 6-0 overall. I like Iowa State as well to go. I think they'll lose the game, but I like them as an in. Next, we have Texas Tech. They're also undefeated in the Big 12. They're also 6-0 overall, and I say no. Their schedule, I think, is just too hard for Texas Tech to make the playoff. Next up is Kansas State. Need to see more. Jury's still out. They're 2-1, 5-1. I need to see more. They could play their way in, and I'm skeptical of Kansas State making it, but let's not shut the door on them, okay? Utah out. Colorado out. I mean, all of this glitz, all of this publicity. all of this glamour and sizzling style, and yet they don't win on the field. So out for Colorado. Let's go to the ACC, which I want to make my ACC friends upset, but you are the weakest of the four conferences without a question. And I'm going to talk about Clemson. If you guys have been watching me here, I've been talking about Clemson since they got drilled by Georgia in the first game of the year. Because all Clemson's done since is win. Clemson 4-0, top the ACC, 5-1 overall. I say Clemson in. Next, Miami. They're 2-0. They're 6-0 overall. I say Miami is in. Next, we have Pitt. They're 2-0 and they're undefeated too. But Pitt, I think their schedule going out, I think they're going to be exposed. Their schedule's too tough. I say Pitt is out. Next is SMU. This is a real surprise. SMU at 2-0, 5-1 overall. SMU, I don't think can keep this going. You have to question how good they really are. But at this point, they are in the to be considered category. So that's when I look at the conference. And I do want to say something about Boise State. Now, Boise State, I need to see a lot more, but they've got to go undefeated to get in. In my opinion, they can't drop a game. If they lose one game, they're out. So we'll see on Boise State. I'm not forgetting you. So let's look at our picks for this week. I'm going to go to, do my usual 7 picks for the week. Let's start off with Alabama and Tennessee. Classic rivalry. Tennessee, I'm reading this right here. Tennessee gets 2.5 points at home. I'm really surprised by this spread. I think Tennessee will win the game and end Alabama for the college football playoff. I think Tennessee wins. And I think that certainly they're going to take care of the 2.5 points they're being given as well. So again, I take them to win the game. The next one is Georgia, Texas, maybe the game of the year, possibly in the regular season. What a great matchup this is. I struggled with this one because Texas is a 3.5 point favorite, and I really labored over this one. But in the end, Texas has looked absolutely flawless to me. I just can't go against Texas in any way, shape, or form at this point. So I take Texas, throw away the 3.5 to Georgia. Next is a game probably nobody's paying much attention to, but it's University of Central Florida at Iowa State. Iowa State is, in some places, a 14-point favorite, other places 13.5. So I think this will probably maybe land at 14. I like UCF. I don't think they'll win the game. I think Iowa State will win. But this will be a closer game, I think, than people think. So I like UCF plus the 14 points. Virginia at Clemson. I'm going to keep riding Clemson all the way here, folks. They haven't let me down. Clemson is a 21.5 point favorite against Virginia. Clemson's at home. Give me Clemson. Give away the 21.5. Next up, we go back to the Big Ten. We've got Michigan at Illinois. Illinois is a 1-point underdog, so basically this is a pick 'em. I think Illinois will win this game. As I said earlier, Michigan should be an easy team to stop because you know exactly what they can do and what they can't do. I like Illinois to win outright here. Next, we have SMU going to Stanford. SMU is on my radar now. Really haven't thought of them at all until this week. But SMU, paid their way to get into that conference. SMU is 14.5 point favorite. I'm going to take SMU and throw away the points to Stanford. Stanford is not a good team. Last but not least, we have Nebraska at Indiana. And Nebraska's getting 6.5. If this goes to 7, definitely grab Nebraska. But I'm taking Nebraska, getting 6.5 at Indiana. Nebraska could win this game. But with the 6.5, I really like Nebraska. So anyway, that's my wrap up for college football week 8. Please let me know if you want to comment, if you like what I've said here. Some of you might, if you're fans of certain teams, you will not like what I said here. And then, of course, feel free always to subscribe if you want to see all my content. Be notified of it as I post. So you guys, thank you. Have a great college football Saturday. Thank you.